And this as fast food restaurants are hiking up their prices. And according to analysts, the fallout from the pandemic has a lot to do with it.
Have you ever sat down at a place you've known for years and suddenly felt like something had changed, but you couldn't quite say what? Many restaurants now quietly shift their ingredients, portions, and pricing in ways that often go unnoticed, especially by older guests. What else might we be missing every time we pick up the menu? Today at the Hidden Menu, we take a deep dive into the 6 restaurants older adults should think twice about. So let us start with 1. Denny's. For a lot of people, walking into a Denny's feels like stepping back in time. The booths look the same, the signs barely change, and the smell of overcooked eggs lingers in a way that feels almost comforting. For older folks, it might even feel familiar, like the last place that hasn't been swallowed up by modern trends or noisy gimmicks. But lately, that feeling of familiarity hides something less cozy. And if you're over 60, the truth might leave a bitter aftertaste. On paper, Denny's looks like it's doing the right thing. The 55-plus menu, often promoted with smiling seniors and phrases like just the right size, offers discounted meals for older guests. A couple dollars off here, a free coffee there. But what most people don't realize is that these senior meals are stripped down to the point of concern. You're not just getting a smaller portion, you're getting a watered-down version of what other diners receive. Eggs come out paler. The hash browns aren't quite crisp. The toast is thin, dry, and served without much care. It's not just about portion, it's about effort. Former employees have shared quietly that the senior menu often uses lower-grade ingredients. One line cook said the 55-plus omelets are pre-prepped in batches hours earlier, while standard menu items get made to order. The bacon might come from the same box, but the older slices, drier, thinner, less desirable, often end up on the senior plates. There's no official policy, of course. But the quiet logic in the kitchen is simple. The folks getting the discount won't complain. Or at least, not loudly. And while the meal might be cheaper, it's also less nourishing. Many of these dishes are heavy in sodium, light on fiber, and oddly greasy for something meant to be senior-friendly. Nutritionists have raised concerns over the salt content in Denny's breakfasts, especially the senior ones, where filler ingredients get used to stretch the flavor. If you're managing blood pressure, that extra pinch of seasoning could mean more than you realize. It's the kind of detail that's easy to overlook, especially when your focus is just getting a warm meal. Then there's the experience itself. One former server shared that senior menu customers are seated closer to the kitchen or under brighter fluorescent lights, spots that regular guests tend to avoid. Not out of malice, but out of routine. The idea is to keep the main dining area livelier and leave the quiet tables to those who just want to eat and leave. It's small, subtle, and most wouldn't notice, but once you do, it's hard to forget. And if something's wrong with your meal? Many older guests shrug it off. They remember a time when complaining was impolite, but that's what the system counts on. By the time you realize your eggs are cold, the meal's half-eaten, and the server's already moved on. Multiply that by weeks or months, and it becomes clear. Denny's isn't really saving you money. It's shaving off just enough quality that you'll barely notice until it's too late. Of course, not every location is the same. There are still caring cooks and thoughtful servers out there. But the trend is hard to ignore. Behind the nostalgia, behind the cheery pancake ads, there's a quiet shift happening, a subtle lowering of standards for those least likely to protest. And that's what makes it unsettling. Not that it's loud or offensive, but that it's just quiet enough to pass for kindness. 2. Applebee's. Applebee's used to feel like a step up. A little more polished than a fast food joint, a little more affordable than a steakhouse. The booths were cushioned, the lighting was low, and the menu had just enough flair to make you feel like you were treating yourself. But over the years, the charm has worn thin. And if you're over 60, it's not just about taste, it's about how much you're quietly losing. At first glance, Applebee's doesn't seem like the kind of place to worry about. They offer weekday lunch specials, 2-for-1 deals, and yes, even the occasional senior-friendly combo. But behind those deals are quiet trade-offs. Smaller portion sizes? Sure. But what's less talked about is how Applebee's kitchens often reheat rather than cook. A former line cook admitted that many of the fresh dishes, like pasta or chicken entrees, arrive pre cooked and frozen. The grill marks? Already there. The sauces? Reheated from vacuum sealed bags. So when you order that grilled chicken on the lighter fare menu, what you're really getting is a microwaved approximation of a home cooked meal. That might be fine for the occasional lunch. But for seniors, many of whom return regularly due to habit, comfort, or lack of alternatives, the effects add up. Sodium levels skyrocket. A single healthy entree can contain over a day's worth of salt. And because seniors are often more sensitive to these levels, whether due to medications, blood pressure, or kidney concerns, the meal that felt like a treat can quietly become a risk. Then there's the atmosphere. Applebee's, in its bid to stay modern, has shifted toward louder music, more screens, and brighter interiors. What was once a calm place for conversation now feels more like a sports bar. One retired couple shared that they stopped going, not because of the food, but because they couldn't hear each other over the TV volume. The staff, mostly young and under pressure to upsell cocktails, often miss the subtle needs of older guests, like slower service, clearer menus, or quieter seating. It's not intentional, but it's noticeable. And for all that noise, what are you paying for? In some cases, seniors pay full price for meals that are smaller than advertised, modified without warning, or served with less care. One ex-server confessed that tables with older folks were routinely skipped for happy hour guests, less likely to tip big, more likely to nurse their drink. Again, no one says it out loud. But it happens. Applebee's may still have its regulars, people who remember when the place felt new. But for many over 60, what used to feel like a comfort now feels like a quiet disappointment. You pay for the familiarity, for the idea of treating yourself, and in return you get reheated meals, loud dining rooms, and the sense that maybe the place moved on without you. And that's the thing nobody puts on the menu. 3. Golden Corral. For many older Americans, a trip to Golden Corral feels like a return to something warm and generous. The buffet line stretches out like a memory. Fried chicken, mashed potatoes, meatloaf just like Grandma made it. There's comfort in abundance, and when you're over 60 on a tight budget or a fixed income, the idea of all you can eat feels like a good deal. But if you look closer, past the trays under heat lamps, the endless sneeze guards, what you'll find isn't just food. It's a quiet pattern of taking more than it gives. Golden Corral offers a senior discount. It's not a bad one either. A few dollars off depending on the day, maybe a smaller lunch portion at a lower price. But those deals come with trade-offs that most people don't notice until they're halfway through their meal. The first is quality. Buffet food isn't designed for nutrition. It's designed for shelf life, which means heavy salt, added preservatives, and bulk ingredients chosen not for taste, but for how long they can sit under warming lights without falling apart. That meatloaf you remember? Today it's held together with fillers and pre-mixed sauces. The mashed potatoes? Powdered base with margarine instead of butter. Former employees have shared that trays for the senior crowd, particularly during early bird hours, are sometimes leftovers from the previous dinner rush. Not spoiled, but not exactly fresh either. One former manager admitted that early weekday crowds get the soft rollout, meaning trays are filled with the previous day's odds and ends before the peak lunch traffic begins. Seniors walk in smiling, scoop up what looks like a full spread, and never realize it's the buffet equivalent of leftovers. The seating arrangement tells another story. Seniors are often ushered to quieter corners of the dining room, near bathrooms, farther from the main windows. It's not an insult, but it's not welcoming either. The idea is to keep the higher energy customers, the families, the younger groups, front and center. Staff are coached to rotate quicker through tables with older guests, limiting interaction and saving time. Not because they don't care, but because they've been trained to see senior diners as lower priority. Then there's the subtle health risk. With buffet dining, food safety is a gamble. Food sits out for hours. Heat lamps are unreliable. And while young stomachs might bounce back from lukewarm chicken or semi-frozen shrimp, seniors often can't. A small bout of food poisoning for a 30-year-old is a weekend inconvenience. For someone over 60, it could mean hospitalization. But who thinks about that when you're holding a tray and smiling at the chocolate fountain? Golden Corral still feels like a good deal. That's what keeps people coming back. But it's a deal that cuts corners quietly, less staff on slow days, more filler in the food, quieter tables, longer waits, and smaller spoons. It's not malicious, just efficient. But when you're over 60 and counting your dollars and your calories, that quiet efficiency can start to feel like something else. It's the kind of place that says, take as much as you want, while quietly making sure what you take is worth a little less than you think. If you've made it this far and one of these restaurants brought back a memory, good or bad, drop a comment below. Like the video if it's making you think twice, and subscribe to the hidden menu so you don't miss what's still to come. 4 IHOP. IHOP used to mean something different. Sunday breakfast with family, special outings after church, or the rare late night craving satisfied with a stack of pancakes and a bottomless coffee pot. For a long time, it felt like a safe middle ground, affordable, familiar, and generous. But something's changed. And if you're over 60, those changes are even easier to taste. On the surface, not much seems different. IHOP still offers the senior menu. Slightly smaller portions, modest discounts, omelets, French toast, the usual suspects. But quietly, things have been shifting. One former cook described it like this: "We used to cook to order. Now we cook for speed. That means pre-cracked eggs in cartons instead of fresh shells, pre-made batters shipped frozen, and microwaved sides disguised as hot off the grill. Your fresh off the griddle pancakes might have been flipped an hour ago and reheated under a dome. The senior meals, meant to be lighter, gentler on the stomach, often aren't." One nutritionist broke down IHOP's 55-plus breakfast sampler and found it contained more sodium than a Big Mac meal. It's the little things: sausage patties with hidden preservatives, bacon slices cooked crisp but soaked in salt during processing, syrups with high fructose corn syrup instead of real sugar or maple. For older adults managing diabetes, heart conditions, or blood pressure, that adds up fast. And yet most seniors who walk into IHOP aren't thinking about ingredient lists. They're thinking about warmth, about familiarity. They want to sit in a booth, sip coffee, and have a quiet moment. But even that has changed. IHOPs across the country have leaned into fast turnover. Less time spent at each table, quicker service, less attention. One former server said they were told to check on senior tables less often during busy hours. The assumption: they won't complain, they won't tip big, they'll eat, pay, and go quietly. The food might look the same, but it doesn't taste the same, and it doesn't feel the same. Pancakes come out lukewarm. Syrup containers are half full. Butter? It's margarine now. And the special you ordered looks suspiciously like a junior menu item with a different name. No one tells you that. You just notice slowly, over time, that everything feels thinner. Even the coffee, once a source of comfort, tastes weaker, brewed less often, watered down, or left sitting in the carafe too long. A retired nurse shared that she used to love coming in with her husband, but now she brings her own tea bags. "I don't want to make a fuss," she said, "but it just doesn't taste right anymore." And that's really it. IHOP isn't doing anything obviously wrong. No signs saying less for more. No bold decisions to cut seniors out. It's just a slow, quiet shift. A gentle lowering of the bar, meal after meal. For seniors, especially those who remember when things felt more personal, that kind of change doesn't show up on the receipt. But you feel it just the same. You walk in looking for comfort. You leave wondering if it's you that changed, or them. 5. Buffalo Wild Wings. There was a time when going out for wings felt like a casual treat. A night out, maybe with grandkids, or catching the game over something spicy and fried. But step inside a Buffalo Wild Wings today, and what hits you first is not the aroma, it's the noise. TVs blaring from every wall, bass-heavy music thudding overhead, conversations competing with sports commentary. For someone over 60, just ordering a meal can feel like a struggle, and that's before the food even gets to the table. Buffalo Wild Wings isn't marketed toward older adults. It never really was. But that does not mean seniors do not end up there, especially when families gather or when a familiar name feels like a safe choice on the road. They offer the occasional weekday lunch special or combo deal, and for anyone watching their wallet, it seems reasonable. But what you're really paying for is not food, it's flash. And behind the big screens and bold flavors is a restaurant model quietly built around distraction more than substance. Start with the wings. The classic order, the namesake, used to come fresh, fried hot, and tossed by hand. But many locations now use pre-breaded wings, partially cooked ahead of time and flash fried to finish. That speeds up service but also sacrifices texture and flavor. Sauces are pumped from plastic bags, standardized and shelf stable for weeks. One former kitchen employee said, "It's all portioned, even the ranch. Nothing is made from scratch anymore." That includes the blue cheese dressing, now often missing the chunks altogether. For older adults managing digestion, sodium, or cholesterol, this menu is a landmine. A regular order of boneless wings can contain over 2,000 milligrams of sodium, nearly a full day's worth. Add fries, a soft drink, and dipping sauce, and you're consuming more than some hospital patients are told to eat in 48 hours. But it's hard to notice when your taste buds are overwhelmed and the music keeps your brain spinning. The service isn't much better. Staff turnover is high, training is inconsistent. Seniors often report feeling brushed off or rushed through their meal. One retired teacher recalled visiting with her sister and waiting 20 minutes for a menu, only to have the server roll their eyes when asked about a senior discount. There isn't one, officially. But the bigger issue wasn't the money. It was the feeling that they weren't welcome, not overtly, just a low-level sense of being out of place. Even the layout makes things harder. High-top tables dominate the dining room. Booths are limited. Lighting is dim, menus are small print, and the background noise makes hearing your server, or your own thoughts, a challenge. For those with hearing aids or visual strain, it's enough to turn a simple lunch into a frustrating chore. Buffalo Wild Wings thrives on chaos, and if you're over 60, that chaos feels less like energy and more like exhaustion. Of course, no one at the door says this place isn't for you, but you can feel it. In the blaring TVs, the food that hits hard but doesn't sit right, the service that doesn't wait long. It's not about being excluded. It's about being slowly pushed out, not with policy, but with volume. Buffalo Wild Wings still sells itself as a place for everyone. But if you're over 60 and searching for something calm, comforting, or even just decent food that won't spike your blood pressure, it may not be the haven it once seemed. 6. Taco Bell. Taco Bell has always been a bit of a mystery. Fast food, but not quite burgers. Mexican, but not really authentic. For generations, it offered late-night drive-through runs and budget-friendly meals that stretched a dollar further than most chains could. But if you're over 60, what used to be a guilty pleasure has quietly become something else entirely. Harder to digest, harder to navigate, and not as friendly to the body or the wallet as it once seemed. The menu is still filled with familiar names: crunch wraps, chalupas, soft tacos. But over the years, the recipes have changed. Beef now comes pre-cooked and vacuum-sealed, often reheated in hot water baths. Shredded lettuce is sometimes days old by the time it hits your tray. And cheese? It's a pre-blended mix of low-moisture shreds designed to melt fast and stay soft under heat lamps. One former employee described it bluntly: "We assemble, not cook." That wouldn't be such a big deal if the food were still balanced, but sodium levels in Taco Bell meals have quietly crept higher. A basic burrito can pack over 1,000 milligrams of salt. Add a side of seasoned rice or chips with nacho cheese, and you're looking at numbers that would make most dietitians cringe. For seniors managing kidney function, heart issues, or blood pressure, this can turn a $6 meal into a health setback waiting to happen. And it's not just about the ingredients. It's about how it feels to walk in. Taco Bell has leaned hard into touchscreen kiosks, app-based ordering, and QR code promotions. For some older customers, that's no problem. But for others, especially those who don't carry smartphones or struggle with digital tools, it's a quiet barrier. You can still order at the counter, but good luck getting help when the staff is stretched thin and the rush is on. Portions have also changed. Items that once filled a tray now fit in one hand. A retired factory worker shared that his value meal taco was half the size he remembered and barely held together in the wrapper. Prices, meanwhile, have crept up in small, silent steps. A combo meal that cost under $5 10 years ago now pushes $10 with tax. That wouldn't be so bad if the food still felt like a meal. But it doesn't. It feels like a snack dressed up as dinner. Taco Bell still feels young. It's marketed with humor and energy, but for someone over 60 looking for nourishment, value, and maybe just a little bit of respect, it can feel alienating. The food doesn't sit well, the room is cold and loud, the smiles are rushed, and the once simple act of ordering a taco becomes a test in patience and compromise. No one at Taco Bell will tell you not to come in, but for seniors who remember when fast food meant quick, filling, and cheap, this isn't that anymore. It's faster, emptier, and quietly tougher on the body. Sometimes the worst part isn't the food. It's realizing the place you once trusted just isn't built for you anymore. If any of these restaurants made you pause or remember a meal that did not sit right, leave a comment below. Tap the like button if this opened your eyes, and subscribe to the hidden menu so you never walk into the wrong place without knowing what's really being served. And remember, the truth is not always on the menu.